support this morning. Even the Stormers rugby supporters. When you consider that topic, a warrior mentality, what goes through your mind? And the worship team already started this morning. It seems to me we've got a fight on our hands this morning. We've got a battle on our hands. What vision is there in your mind when you look at those words? Or what image is formed? Maybe something like this. Maybe a David and Goliath story. But let's see if we can get some answers today to the warrior mentality. Our reading this morning is about a very well-known event in the Bible. What I want you to do is live it in. That's a type of a role play. Create a scenario where you would grab that portion of the Bible and say, that's me. I can do that. I live in that scenario. What we're going to do, we're going to dissect the event that we're going to read about and consider the lessons learned. How to build and maintain a relationship with God. The reading is a bit long, stay with us, but I think it's important to see the complete picture, and then we can focus on a specific portion. We will then understand the context much better. Angel, will you come and read for us? I think your voice is much better than mine.
Sure, my Uncle Andre asked me to read. It took me back to my days when we had to do prepared reading. We would get tested on that, so please bear with me. Joshua 2, verse 1 to 21, Rahab protects the spies. Then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at Achaia Grove. He instructed them, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially around Jericho. So the 2 men set out and came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there that night. But someone told the king of Jericho, some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab, bring out the men who have come into your house, for they've come here to spy out the whole land. Rahab had hidden the 2 men, but she replied, yes, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you could probably catch up with them. Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax she had laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River. And as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut. Before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up on the roof to talk with them. I know the Lord has given you this land, she told them. We are all afraid of you. Everyone in this land is living in terror. For we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. And we know what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, whose people you completely destroyed. No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Now swear to me by the Lord that you'll be kind to me and my family, since I've helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live, along with my father and my mother, my brothers and sisters, and all their families. We offer our own lives as a guarantee for your safety, the men agreed. If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and be kind to you when the Lord gives us the land. Then, since Rahab's house was built into the town wall, she let them down by a rope through the window. Escape to the hill country, she told them. Hide there for 3 days from the men searching for you. Then, when they have returned, you can go on your way. Before they left, the men told her, we will be bound by the oath we have taken only if you follow these instructions. When we come into the land, you must leave the scarlet robe hanging from the window through which you let us down. And all your family members, your father, mother, brothers, and all your relatives, must be here inside the house. If they go out into the street and are killed, it will not be our fault. But if anyone lays a hand on people inside this house, we will accept the responsibility for their death. If you betray us, however, we're not bound by this oath in any way. I accept your terms, she replied, and she sent them on their way, leaving the scarlet robe hanging from the window. Joshua 6, verse 22 to 25. Meanwhile, Joshua said to the 2 spies, keep your promise, go to the prostitute's house and bring her out, along with all her family. The men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, brothers, and all the other relatives who were with her. They moved her whole family to a safe place near the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned the town and everything in it. Only the things made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron were kept for the treasury of the Lord's house. So Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. And may God add His blessing to the reading. I must say to you this morning, I had a bit of a spiritual struggle the last 2-3 days in putting this message together. So I've got loose pieces of paper, I've got my typed notes with handwritten comments. So if I'm not able to read what I've written here, I do apologize. Just to clarify, our focus for today is on a very small portion of what has been read. The spies and the Jordan River. Let's consider some background. We can remind ourselves that the Israelites are on their way to the promised land, Canaan, are now faced with various obstacles, such as a swollen Jordan River and a formidable, fortified and secure Jericho. We also are reminded that ancient Canaan is often referred to as Israel today. However, borders and boundaries have moved slightly, with Lebanon taking on some areas, Syria, West Bank, Gaza. Maybe we should go to the World Court and tell them that the borders of Israel are not correct in terms of the Bible. We read that the Israelites were camped at Shittim, which lies approximately 16 kilometers east of the River Jordan and approximately 24 kilometers east of Jericho. What did this fortified city look like? This is huge. The outer wall was about 7 meters high and about 1.8 meters wide at the bottom and tapered to the top. The inner wall was about 9 meters high and 3.6 meters wide at the bottom. Now, this should have made any military commander sit up and challenge him to find out how to attack such a fortified facility. Obviously, looking at it in those times and not today. But Joshua was an astute military commander who led the 40,000 Israel fighting men and about 1 million others and their possessions. As with normal military operations, Joshua deployed spies to verify the information they had and gather further intelligence of the land, seek weaknesses in the city security systems and the morale of the inhabitants, all to plan a proper and successful attack. Reference is made here of spies. In the context of a planned military operation in the modern era, we usually refer to spies as highly trained reconnaissance soldiers in the South African context. Others refer to them to rangers and all sorts of funny things. That is a book, South African book, written by our reconnaissance soldiers, one of them. And it's interesting to note, we fear naught but God. Now, just briefly, if we talk about how good these oaks are, talking in this context that we see here, their pass rate to enter the system is based on a 90+% failure rate to even qualify to get into the system. There was only 6 South African Bravery Awards in the gold class issued prior to 1994. 5 of the gold class awards went to one reconnaissance soldier. I was privileged to be on training with some of them. Who were the spies referred to? Who were the 2 spies referred to in verse 1? Names have not been mentioned. Who said something? I heard something. Say it again. Say it loud.
Caleb.
Thank you. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. The names have not been mentioned, so your statement is not correct. However, in Joshua 6:23, it just refers to young men who had been spies. The fact remains, do we need to know everything? We may never, until in heaven one day. Some biblical scholars, Carol, do say that Caleb was one of the spies. However, Caleb was about 85 years old at the time, and we have just read that they were young men. So 85 and young, I'm not discriminating against your age, but that's God's word. Let's backtrack a bit. It is not the first time that we read about spies in the Bible. The first time occurred in Numbers, where this character, Caleb, also featured alongside Joshua. That's the time when Moses sent 12 spies to scout the land of Canaan. Caleb represented a specific tribe of Judah alongside Joshua. Caleb was only one of 2 spies that returned with a positive report, filled with faith that God would help them conquer the land. This act of bravery set him apart from the other spies. The Joshua we refer to here is the same one who led the current military build-up and attack on Jericho. He is the successor of Moses, who he walked with very closely, approximately 40 years. In modern terminology, we would say it's a succession plan that worked out very well. So it seemed as if Caleb was an astute spy, or a smart spy. Numbers 13:30 is a testament of Caleb's faith. Let's go at once and take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. Caleb stood by his conviction, even when the other 10 spies focused on the giants, fortified cities in Canaan, and all sorts of other obstacles. The question is, where do you stand today? If you read that, and I'm saying live it in, where do you stand? Or are you a fence sitter? I think Caleb would have been an excellent brand ambassador for Nike. Just do it. Let's look at the typical characteristics of a spiritual spy. Or rather, let me say, why not use Caleb as a typical example? Caleb not only understood the dynamics of a spy and a soldier, a real warrior, but he connected these attributes to the spiritual guidance of Jesus Christ. Throughout the Bible, Caleb's life is celebrated as an example of obedience and faith. The story in Numbers and Joshua serves as a reminder that God rewards those who trust Him wholeheartedly, not half measures. Caleb's unwavering commitment to God serves as a lasting inspiration for people seeking to follow God with a full and true heart. Caleb's name in Hebrew is often interpreted as faithful, or I already mentioned, wholehearted, passionate, committed. Caleb's life is a testament to the rewards of faith, courage, and loyalty to God. His story is filled with moments where he chose to trust and obey God over circumstances, inspiring generations of believers. Undoubtedly, Caleb had a close relationship with God. We can also say Caleb acknowledged God. Now remember the word acknowledge. In that we get knowledge. Break it up more and you see know. Is it not good to know God that's knowledgeable in everything? The clever man Charles Spurgeon, take on trust and obey, is as follows. Let's skip that one, or we can just quickly go through that. That is just the characteristics, a summary of Caleb. You can read it for yourself. I told you it's going to be confusing this morning because I had a bit of a struggle putting this all together. But Charles Spurgeon I spoke to, and he said to me, faith and works are bound up in the same bundle. He that obeys God trusts God, and he that trusts God obeys God. He that is without faith is without works, and he that is without works is without faith. We also read in Proverbs 3, it's not on the screen. Just listen. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs 3 verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and learn and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit him and he will make your paths straight. Can you think of another spiritual warrior? Where do you fit in to the spiritual warrior concept? I can think of quickly one other. Who's the guy that smuggled the Bibles in behind the Iron Curtain? Who?
Andrew.
Brother Andrew, absolutely. Go to YouTube and have a look at the recreation of Brother Andrew's mission. About 25, 30 minutes. Excellent, very good. Why use spies? Joshua knew he was to attack a heavily fortified city using conventional warfare tactics. He needed confirmed strategic information of the city for the upcoming battle. But he also knew that he might face criticism from the other leaders, as the last time spies were sent out, the report brought disastrous problems. Thus, he didn't want to be moving ahead without confirmed information or intelligence, and that he did not want to cause people to stumble and question his wisdom and ability to lead the nation. What am I saying? Be prepared. Do you just stand back and say, Lord, take it over? You do it. Or do I lift my posterior and do something together with God? It's a matter of inches. No matter what role you played in this spy story, you will be killed if discovered. It is said by intelligence operators that prostitution and spying are the oldest professions. In the intelligence environment, they also referred to the 11th commandment: get the product at all costs, but don't get caught. Nothing in the spy business will ever change and will always be present amongst us, watching and listening, whether anyone likes it or not. It's the way of the world. Those in power will always need that secret product to give them the edge over those whom they perceive as threats. Let's pause here for a moment and fast forward to a modern era, 94, prior 94. I've already mentioned that spies in the context of our reading would be very specialized reconnaissance soldiers who are trained to operate as small teams in hostile territory behind enemy lines, undetected or secretly, and gather strategic information. Now just imagine this story. The spies, on reaching the river, made a strategic assessment and returned to the commander indicating that the job is not for them as conventional spies, but for waterborne reconnaissance soldiers operating in small teams who have marine training, techniques and technology to cross the river. They also suggested that aerial photographs and maps be obtained to determine if it would not be easier to cross the river somewhere else. Maybe a drone could assist. Obviously, the depth of the river needs to be determined. So, the marine or waterborne reconnaissance soldiers are called in and they agree with the assessment, but added that a model be constructed and that they would need about a month to 3 to exercise and sharpen their tactics and approach in another river far from the Jordan. Now, probably thinking, so what? Why am I sharing this information with you? Physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. I have no doubt that the Israelites knew that the God who parted the Red Sea is the same God who is with them in their current challenges. Some key takeaways. Possessing the promises of God requires a warrior mentality, because the Christian life involves real spiritual battles. God wants you to live free and fully alive in Him. But the history of Joshua helps us understand that it will not be easy. There is no promises that it will be roses and moonshine every single day. At face value, in Joshua 12, it appears to be a straightforward historical record listing the defeated kings of the land between the more dramatic stories of faith. But if we look a little bit closer, we see that this chapter reminds us that exercising our faith requires perseverance in battle. God's promises are real, but stepping into them takes courage, endurance, and trust. To do that, we must adopt a warrior mentality. This is not a story about Jesus take the wheel and I do nothing. By the way, isn't there a song like that? Jesus take the wheel. Who sang it? I'm told that stuff. Google.
Can you undo?
Can I do it? Saying Jesus take the wheel. But it's not Jesus take the wheel. And I'm stepping aside and saying, you try, Jesus. I'm going nowhere. No, not at all. You see, that's why I married her. I don't need Google. What are the qualities of a spiritual warrior? The warrior knows they are in battle. The warrior is focused on the victory. The warrior never settles until they settle in glory. The warrior fights with prayer and fasting. The warrior walks by faith. Now I've got a challenge for you. Do you have these qualities? Give yourself a score out of 5 for each of the categories. And at the end of the message, we'll check your score. The warrior understands that the struggles of today is not the final story. Just as athletes endure difficult training for the sake of victory, followers of Jesus keep their eyes fixed on the greater reward. A spiritual warrior fights with the end in mind, the gold medal, knowing that the ultimate victory belongs to Christ. A reminder, ultimately, the call to fight is grounded in the greater truth that Jesus has already gone before us. Jesus is the true and better warrior who has defeated every enemy and never lost a battle. Don't you want to be on his side? Because he has already won, we can step into our own battles with confidence. The question is whether we will trust him enough to enter life's battles. Where would you find spiritual warriors? Now, as you sit here, warriors are dying for their faith in Africa and all over the world. More than 4,000 spiritual warriors have died for their faith in Africa in 2025. Where's your next holiday? Maybe you want to try Nigeria. You don't want to go to Nigeria. Just don't tell them you're a Christian. It's easy. But that's the easy way out. Or maybe our next holiday is in North Korea. What about closer to home? What about, that's a nice one, the Congo? Decapitated. Yeah, that's not nice. I think gunshots are better. It's easier, it's quicker. Well, those figures are not nice, not at all. These statistics are horrific. They're Christian warriors, Christian brothers and sisters. Let's return to the second portion I mentioned earlier, the swollen river. That is the actual Jordan River. Who's been to the Jordan River? 1, 2. Great stuff. The Jordan River was at flood stage, overflowing its banks at the time when the spies had to cross. According to Joshua 3:15, this occurred during the harvest season, springtime, March, April, when snow melted from Mount Hermon, and seasonal rains made the river deeper, wider, and normally too dangerous to cross. Yet, the spies crossed. Remember, we're only talking spies now. We're not talking about the main body of Israelites that are camped there. It's only the 2 spies. The river was overflowing its banks, making it a rushing flow, and far wider than its normal 27 to 30 meters, which posed a difficult obstacle. The significance of the spies crossing is portrayed as a miracle. The question remains, so how did the spies actually cross the river? Again, the Bible does not specify how they crossed. But we can safely assume that none of them had any swimming lessons during the 40 years wandering around the desert. Let me follow it up with the next question. Is it important how they crossed the river? No, not at all. Although it would have been interesting. But what is important? It's a demonstration of divine power at the highest point of risk, thus from a spiritual perspective. Facing the current obstacle of crossing a swollen river is a minor issue compared to the greater objective of reaching the promised land. The next challenge. How did the spies manage to enter Jericho? Jericho stood at the edge of the Jordan Valley, positioned on major trade routes that connected regions east and west. Frequent commercial travel brought an assortment of merchants, caravans, and visitors through the city. Cultural attire in ancient Canaan varied by region. Yet it was possible for visitors to adopt clothing or speech patterns that minimize suspicion. Moving with discretion would have given the spies time to study the city before drawing attention to themselves. Given its prominence in commerce, strangers arrived in Jericho would not immediately have been regarded as suspects. The spies would have been cautious and could blend in with such groups. Furthermore, the city's fortifications and gate systems were designed to protect against large-scale invasions rather than to monitor every individual who passed through daily. The spies could have arrived at a busy time, perhaps near dusk, or during a change of guard shifts. Ultimately, by choosing their moment carefully, they could avoid the heightened scrutiny that might be present at any other times. These factors are typical of a military style which is even relevant today. Do you think God was a military intelligence strategist who placed these concepts in the minds of the spies? I think it was not just luck, training, or good planning that these concealment approaches were followed by the spies. I think God made it happen. Some last thoughts. Life doesn't always give you the position you want. God gives you the spy job you are meant for. Taking a step of faith and crossing the river into the promised land can be described as procession to possession. What is your procession today? What has God got in store for us? Is it to remain in Sunday school? No, He wants us to move on to a youth level, then to main church, and to ultimately continue our growth in our Christian walk with Him. A couple of personal questions. Have you faced a swollen river in your life? How did you manage to cross? On which side of the river are you today? Are you trapped? Psalm 25. My eyes are always on the Lord, for He rescues me from the traps of my enemies. Spurgeon had this to say: cheer up now, you faint-hearted warrior. Not only has Christ travelled the road, but He has defeated your enemies. It emphasizes that Christ has overcome all obstacles and adversities, providing comfort and encouragement to believers. Spurgeon's message encouraged individuals to take heart as they are not alone in their struggles, as all enemies have been defeated by Christ's victory. Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting Him, endures the cross, disregarding its shame. Now He's seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. Caleb's story is a powerful example of choosing faith over fear. His story is filled with moments where he chose to trust God over circumstances, inspiring generations of believers. Caleb was rewarded for his faithfulness. Because of Caleb's loyalty, God promised him a specific inheritance in the promised land. We read in Numbers 14:24, but my servant Caleb has a different attitude that the others have than the others. He has remained loyal to me, so I will bring him into the land he explored. His descendants will possess their full share of that land. This promise emphasized God's favor toward those who remain steadfast. The challenge for us: can you live up to Caleb's spiritual standards? Just a reminder, when we fix our eyes on the Lord, everything changes. When we lift our eyes off from our troubles, it changes our perspective. Sometimes we can feel trapped and overwhelmed, but as we turn our eyes upon Jesus, something begins to shift. A couple of thoughts. Can you be classified as a warrior of God? Can God depend on you? Or are you the one who throws your arms up in the air and say, I have had enough, and stepping aside? That's it. I've had enough. I'm stepping aside. Vernon, you take over. If there's a problem in this church, are you the one that taps out and says, that's it, I'm gone? Is that the warrior attitude that we're talking about? Let's ramp this up one more notch. Would you be able to confess who walked with you during life's storms? I recently read the story. 3 April 2026, by the way, it was Good Friday, was supposed to be another day for a US pilot on a combat mission over Iran. But for Captain Ryan Mitchell, it would turn into an unimaginable ordeal. Shot down over enemy territory, Mitchell was left stranded in the Iranian desert, wounded and with limited means of emergency communication. The odds of survival were slim. Unless, of course, you happen to be guided by a mysterious figure with knowledge that defines logic. Wonder who's that figure? For 14 hours, Mitchell walked through hostile territory with only one person by his side, a figure that appeared to be made of light. I wonder, who was that? Every enemy patrol passed by without noticing him, while he followed this figure across the desert, unharmed. And the most shocking part, this wasn't some survival tactic. Mitchell was being guided by none other than Jesus Christ. This is the unbelievable story of one man's survival against all odds, with divine intervention in a situation that seemed meant for failure. As Mitchell's 14-hour journey came to an end, the real question remained: How did a man with no support, a broken knee, manage to survive behind enemy lines for so long? The answer is as unbelievable as the journey itself. The first message Mitchell transmitted to rescuers through his emergency beacon was, God is good. It's an emphasis that in a moment of life and death uncertainty, it was faith that surfaced first. Undoubtedly, Mitchell is a spiritual warrior who is not ashamed to testify as such. As I conclude, let's make this real. We hear, we see, we read about others. Let's make it real. Let's bring it closer here. At your funeral, will you be referred to as a spiritual warrior? Would you be able to say this? I pray that when I die, all of hell will rejoice that I'm out of the fight. It's a call to purposeful, courageous faith that engages with the world's brokenness rather than retreating from it. My counter-evil approach. Evil prefers vulnerability, predictability, and low resistance. Spiritual preparedness and resistance alter the evil one's decisions. The battle lines have been drawn, and it's up to each one to forcefully push back the frontiers of evil through spiritual awakening. We also read in Joshua 1. This is my command, strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I thank you for listening to me this morning, and I trust that the message of the Lord has an impact on your life, and that you are born as a warrior of God. It is no mistake if you are a warrior of God. Let us pray. Lord, right now I choose to turn my eyes and to look at you. I choose to look fully into your wonderful face. Lord, thank you that we can come to you with confidence. My desire is for your will to be done and for your kingdom to come. Fill our hearts with peace. Thank you that you care for us and you are at work in our lives. May the things of the earth grow strangely dim in the light of your glory and grace. Help me not to fear, but to rest in your love. Remind me that you are with me and that we are your